Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ad Age Remotely. I'm Erica Wheelis, technology reporter here at Ad Age. Thanks for joining us today. On today's Remotely, I'll be speaking with Trink, the CEO of FaZe Clan, an esports and lifestyle gaming platform. Hey, Lee, how's it going?
How are you, Erica?
It's okay.
Good to see you.
You too. So before we get started, I just want to say a quick reminder to those of you watching on our social channels. If you like what we're doing here on Ad Age Remotely, please like, subscribe, share, or retweet this post. And feel free to leave questions on our social channels. We'll try to get them answered during our conversation. Okay, so Lee, I think many of us are familiar with how popular gaming has become thanks to the pandemic, and we're absolutely going to get into those.
It was pretty popular before, but I think pandemic
I think it's really come to the forefront now. Yeah,
for sure.
We're going to get into all of those shifts, but I actually want to start with the Super Bowl. So for folks who may not be familiar with FaZe Clan, they may not have noticed this, but Snoop Dogg actually wore a FaZe Clan chain during the halftime show. How did FaZe connect with Snoop Dogg, and what was it like to see him wearing the FaZe F1?
So we've been having conversations with Snoop and his family for quite some time. So our chief strategy officer, Kai Henry, worked with Snoop many years ago, actually at the beginning of his career as part of his management team, and is quite close with him. And really, we've just been in conversations, and he's been leading those with Snoop directly, with his son Cordell, and they just started to they just started to get familiar with the brand, what the brand was about, and we really started talking about what a relationship would look like. Snoop in many ways is like kind of the original internet kid, right? He's really like an old school gamer. Gaming is so central to who he is, and is, I think people are aware of it, but it's quite important. Game consoles are on his riders for his shows. So it developed pretty organically over a long period of time, and we were working on the relationship and how to bring him in, and we gifted him the chain, and he was sort of generous enough and blessed us with wearing it on really, what might be arguably is the biggest day of his career.
For sure. Game consoles and riders. Okay, that's the first I've heard of that one.
Super serious. Oh yeah, no, it's the stories are actually pretty funny about what happens when they're not in the dressing room. So
makes sense. So FaZe Clan now actually has several rappers and athletes that are a part of the organization. What does this say about gaming culture that these folks are a part of FaZe Clan?
At this point, gaming culture has become synonymous with youth culture. I like to think that FaZe had a hand in that, but there's been such momentum in the growth of this, really passionate, really large community around the world, and I think that for many years there was this stereotype about what a gamer was, when the reality is if you're, especially if you're part of Gen Z, you're a gamer. In all likelihood, you're a gamer, and you have athletes that game to sort of decompress after games, and the same thing with musicians. Some athletes really use gaming as even part of their training regimen, and so it's natural. It's kind of a natural extension, and I think that because of what the FaZe brand means within the culture, that we're really, kind of the pinnacle of achievement, and certainly kind of the arbiters of cool in this scene within this community, that you saw, people like Snoop and people like Kyler Murray gravitate towards us, and it's just kind of like we're mutual fans, and we look for ways to just kind of organically collaborate.
Are there any, so in having baby, I like that, the arbiters of cool, and of course like the cool factor that comes with rappers and athletes. Are there any other shifts in the perception of gaming or how brands maybe think about gamers that you've seen in the last year or so?
Yeah, I mean, I've been running FaZe for a little over 4 years, so I have this kind of interesting arc of understanding, and it's really been a seismic shift over the last 2 years, where I think that the advertising community, the entertainment community, the business community at large finally understood. It's not that we just ascended. It's that it was finally understood and accepted that gaming it's ubiquitous. That gaming is, we sometimes talk about gaming as kind of connecting 1,000 different cultures, and that's what it is. Gaming is not one single homogenous group of people. Gaming is many discrete communities, some large, some small, some cross over with each other, but we like to think that gaming and FaZe are connecting all of these communities, and I think that finally there's an understanding by the business, the brand, and the entertainment communities at large that that this is really more important than sort of any other entertainment choice, any other recreational activity. There was some data that came out last year for the first time when they asked Gen Z what their number one entertainment choice. So they asked, what's your main entertainment choice? Video games was number one by a large margin. It was like 26% compared to music, which was a distant number two at 14%. And in fifth place were television and film combined for Gen Z. So there's really been this seismic shift around consumption, and all of those hours of consumption have drifted towards gaming. And the other thing that I think a lot of people are still confused about is the difference between gaming and esports. A lot of people talk about them synonymously, and that's really not the case. Esports is a subsection of gaming. Esports is the professional competitive side of gaming. But when you look at overall consumption by the community and the audience, that it's actually a fairly small slice, kind of under 20% of the viewing consumption is around competitive esports. And so what most of the consumption is gaming as entertainment, right? Where some of our streamers will have a larger audience on a random Tuesday of one of our streamers, Nick Merckx or Swag. They'll have a bigger audience than league play that'll be happening at the same time. And I think a lot of people don't understand that the action is actually in the entertainment, and gaming is kind of a backdrop in a kind of a shared language.
You've named a couple of members of FaZe Clan, and I actually want to stick here for a second.
Okay.
I think part of the attractiveness for brands who want to work with FaZe Clan or other esports organizations is that there are several members that fans and brands can maybe naturally gravitate towards. If folks are not familiar, I'm going to use the analogy of BTS. You probably have like the K-pop member that you love. If you're a gamer, you probably have a member that you like gravitate towards as well. How does FaZe find new gamers, and maybe does that impact how what brands you will work with by we have somebody who we think is a better fit? How do you go through and say this would work?
Yeah, so to your first point, without a doubt, we have a wide variety of personalities within FaZe Clan, and while they're all kind of tethered by FaZe and the idea of what FaZe is, kind of FaZe Rug audience is very different than FaZe Banks's audience, for example. And they've both been in FaZe for nearly a decade. The way we look for new members is it's kind of like all of our FaZe members and even our community kind of kicks things up to us, kicks ideas up to us. I think we just have a wide network of just eyes out in the field. And I think the nature of the space is that, you can see people kind of bubbling up based on the numbers they're pulling. Like if they're a Twitch streamer, you can kind of see, okay, how many numbers are they pulling? How many concurrents can they pull? Are they building an audience? Is that audience growing? And so we have we have people within the employees that look for gamers. We've got the other founders that look for gamers. The other members are always looking and kind of as a feeder system, and our community kind of kicks things up for us. And we're about to launch we do a nearly yearly recruitment challenge that the last time we did it was phase 5. The way we've done it before is as phase 5, where we recruited 5 new members. This year, we've relaunched that as phase 1, where we're recruiting 1 new member. We've always done content around it, but we've really beefed it up, and it's going to culminate in this 15-day live stream where the top 20 contestants, are living together. We're streaming it 24/7. It's kind of big brother style, and where ultimately we will pick 1 new FaZe member. That new FaZe member is going to win $1 million signing bonus in cryptocurrency. They're going to win a $250,000 brand deal, a Nissan GTR, and they're going to be kind of a marquee talent within FaZe Clan. So there's a number of different ways that we bring in talent.
Team effort for sure.
Yeah, for
okay.
sure.
So, and for folks who may not be aware, so that live stream show that's coming out will be in May on Twitch, and it's called Phase 1: The Warehouse.
Yeah,
right?
That'll be May 5th. And what's interesting is what we realized with this Twitch show. I think a lot of people have tried to take kind of a television show and put that on Twitch because that's where kind of the Gen Z audience is. And we took a different approach, and we really purpose built this show for the Twitch audience, and with the idea of what does a Twitch viewer want out of that, which is really different than a linear television consumer. And so we're really excited. We think it's really, another type of pioneering. I think we pride ourselves on being pioneers and experimenters in this space. And so we couldn't be more excited for that May 5th kickoff date.
Very cool. So Leave FaZe has worked with brands across the board, McDonald's, DraftKings, MoonPay. What advice would you give to brands who are interested in working with an esports or gaming organization? Anything they should or shouldn't do?
I think the main thing that they need to understand is it's not only about connecting to the network of audience or the affinity of the brand. You really need to understand how to move the way the community wants you to move. And so, I know I always have talked about with my team that we sell 3 things, right? We sell the affinity of our brand, we sell the reach of our audience, but the third part that we sell is knowing how to communicate with that audience. And so I would say it's easy to go wrong to allow either your brand creatives or your agency's creative, if they don't have real experience in reaching this demo, it's never been harder to reach a youth culture demo than reaching Gen Z. It's just there's a seismic difference around a generation that grew up digitally native, and some of the kind of old rules or old methods, they're just hard to break out of. And so we always really are insistent that that we lead creative, that we know how to connect with our community best. And so my recommendation is you need to listen to that part of it also. And I probably also stress that, esports still growing, super important to the space. I mean, the esport, there's real rapidity in esports, but think about gaming broadly, because that's really where you can reach a massive audience, right? And, sometimes what I say is in this world, the Harlem Globetrotters are actually more famous than the Lakers. That's really the vibe of the gaming community.
you previously, Lee, you touched a little bit about how, like, gaming is not just this like little insular community. There are a lot of different folks in there. So FaZe has announced that it is going to go public later this year. And I saw that your board announcement came out, and Stephanie McMahon, who is the chief brand officer for WWE, is on the board. Can you talk to me a little bit about the connection between wrestling and gaming?
There's actually there's real connectivity. I mean, those communities are actually there's a lot of the same ethos, and so it's funny that we had talked. We've been talking about what potential collaborations can look like in general. Stephanie and I met on a panel that we did together and just kind of hit it off and continued speaking, but. If you look at that WWE audience, that community, again, it's really a community. It's they're opinionated, they care a lot, they consume a lot, they're super passionate, and I would say all of those same things about the gaming community. And I think that there's really significant overlap in terms of audiences.
Very nice. Let's see. Let me reintroduce you here. If you're just joining us, I am speaking with Lee Trink, the CEO of FaZe Clan. A reminder to our audience that you can ask questions on our social media channels, and we will try to get those answered. A couple of shout outs. Fadi from Saudi Arabia. We have Scott, Saul, Richard, and Joe. Thanks so much for watching today. All right. So Lee, we got to talk about the metaverse, right? This is the big buzzword. So I'd be remiss if we didn't touch on this.
Yeah.
So, and we've done a panel before where I know this answer is different depending on who you ask and for different brands. But how does FaZe Clan think about the metaverse? Especially for you all, do you view gaming as kind of one of like the first, like the original metaverse?
Yeah, I think it is actually. I think if you look at kind of, you look at what's going on in Fortnite, right? You look at from, there's the gameplay and there's this immersive world, and then there are concerts in there, which is we've done in Roblox too. So I think gaming and gamers have been sort of living in the metaverse already, even if there's some cynicism within the gaming community around things like NFTs and crypto. But just to that point, Counter-Strike, there's been third-party marketplaces for Counter-Strike skins for a decade, and they trade at real numbers. I'm talking about 5 figures, some 6 figures for certain items. So that's already existed. But for us, we think that I'll say 2 things about the metaverse. One is sometimes what I say is the metaverse is not necessarily just a door that you walk into. I describe it more as a hallway that we're already in. That when you think about the amount of time that people spend on digital environments like Instagram or Facebook or Twitch, and also if you think about, for some people, their digital persona is as important and arguably I would say for some people more important, right? I think for some people, especially who make a living out of it, their persona on Instagram digitally is actually more important than their persona in real life. And so I think we're already in that hallway where we're starting to spend more and more time digitally. But I think what we're most excited about within Web3, I really talk about it more as Web3. I think we're excited about two parts of it. One is that we think that Web3 will give us the tools to have a closer relationship with our audience and our community, because the reality is we may have 400 million followers across our network, but the reality is that last millimeter is not ours. It's whomever is sort of in between us and that community member. Like sometimes to describe it, I'll put the phone in the middle of that to kind of to say, Instagram is in between FaZe and its community. YouTube is in between FaZe and its community, and they own the relationship and they dictate the nature of that relationship. and they dictate what we can do and what we can't do, and they can kick you off and they can kick me off. And Web3 can provide an environment where that connectivity is bespoke, and we can add in there, and we can communicate in a way, and we can transact in a way that's really custom built for the particular relationship. So I think that that's one thing that we're immensely excited about. And the other thing is, I think what we're seeing within the crypto gaming space is extremely exciting. I think that the play to earn, or the play and earn, I think is going to be revolutionary for gaming worldwide. I think we're really looking hard at what that means and what that means for FaZe. But what we know is it's incredibly exciting.
Okay, you've touched on cryptocurrency, Lee, but I also want to ask you about NFTs. You are quite the NFT collector based on your OpenSea profile. I wanted to ask how
I've gone in deep.
you have. It's an impressive collection. I will give that to you. How do you see the gaming community possibly using NFTs?
Well, really, that the point that I was making around the relationship and the fact that, I'm going to use the parlance of Web3, that centralized platforms like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, those centralized platforms, again, they control the nature of the relationship. And I think NFTs for us, I think will we get involved in sort of art NFTs? We might selectively, but I think the way we look at NFTs and we look at the promise of Web3 is how do we create access into a FaZe ecosystem? How do we reward our most active community members? How do we enable our community to take some level of ownership in what we're doing at FaZe? And I think that those are all the elements that Web3 provide. And again, that being able to be actually directly connected to our community rather than being connected through some other centralized platform, I think that's a seismic shift in what ends up being, for the business of FaZe. So I think that's mainly we're looking at it as, access and connectivity to a more robust relationship between, FaZe Clan and the FaZe Clan community.
Very nice. Let's see, Lee, let's take one question from our audience. This is from a viewer on Twitch. How does FaZe approach content in terms of a more formal programming slate versus your social content?
So great question. I think what we're doing with Phase One, the warehouse show, I think that's a great example. We're taking sort of the ethos of what we've had, but we're upping the production value, but we're upping with the concept of what it is. We're really expanding that into almost the highest level of what we could do around the Phase One program of like, how do we make this search for a FaZe member, this global search for a FaZe member, how do we make it as exciting as possible? How do we make that content exciting? We make it interesting for our community. We make it something where it's like, a must tune in and things that we can kind of cut up and put out socially. But we're looking at those things broadly. We think that there's other. I don't think that Gen Z has kind of walked away from premium content. I think that there are other interests, and there are a lot of other places where they'll spend their attention. But I think that there's a place for the type of programming that we're looking to create in a slate that we're putting together, where we're bringing kind of our ethos and understanding what resonates with our community and turning that into more long form content.
Very nice. Okay, Lee, we've covered a lot of ground. So I want to wrap with this question. We've seen a lot of changes in gaming, but what are some trends that you are keeping an eye on going forward?
Look, I think probably the most important thing for both FaZe and the community is greater attention on female gamers. I think that overall, I think that both FaZe and the gaming community kind of hasn't done quite enough. And so I think that that's just something that we're that we're really focused on. I would say that, and diversity in gaming is just another, I think, a place where the gaming community is just behind. And I think that we've got to be better leaders about how we change that and change both of those things.
Hear, hear. Always nice to have more women in the space, for sure.
Definitely.
Let's see. Well, Lee, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really great to have you on.
Yeah, great to talk to you, Erica. Thanks.
Absolutely. And thank you as well to our Ad Age team, Arabella Breck, Alfred Mascaroni, Anna Sakula, and Lauren Chiardio for making this live stream happen. We have many more great remotely guests coming up in the next few weeks. You can check out adage.com/remotely for more updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.